Raider Nation, what's going on? It's your boy Raider Slim back with another video. Talk about a couple topics here. Let's talk about this Jay Glazer. When he came out and said Maxx Crosby wanted to be traded. But first, go ahead and hit that subscribe right there, man. It's a new channel I'm pushing right now. And I'm working on some new things. But like I said, hit that subscribe. But let's go ahead and get into business. Now, Jay Glazer comes out. It's the whole Super Bowl weekend thing going on in Frisco. And he's out there and he said that Maxx Crosby was highly upset. Now, we already knew he was pretty much upset. And he said he wanted to play. Now, he came out and said when players say they want to play, they want to play. And basically saying, like, we all knew Maxx Crosby did want to play, but it was in his best interest for the Raiders to go ahead and get him his surgery, right? They did the same thing with Brock Bowers. You know, he was having that lingering injury, you know, and then Maxx Crosby being hurt since the Chiefs game and whatnot. So they had to protect Maxx from Maxx. Now, I understand when I kind of heard him say this, he said that he don't want to go through a rebuild or whatever the case may be. So when it transpired, when I listened to what he said, it basically came out that he kind of talked to Maxx right after this happened. Now, I know, you know, people say things when they get mad, they get upset. And he said once he got benched, he's like, I don't want to go through a full rebuild. You know, we all saw the whole thing basically saying that, you know, he left the building, he stormed off. And, of course, he was going to be upset. You know, Maxx is one of those guys that wants to play. We know he's been dealing with injuries, you know, for many years, and he'll play if he really want to be out there. That's just what it is. Maxx would have played all 2 games, you know what I mean, the last 2 games of the season. But, you know, they sat him, and he came on his podcast and basically spoke about, you know, him needing surgery, and it's been bothering him, and he already knew he had to get it done, and he ended up getting it done. You know, it was like a meniscus scrape or something they said he had to do, and basically, you know, he knew, you know, and it was the best interest. You know, you protect your best player. You know, you go ahead and pull him in early. Now, we know he wanted to play, but everybody ran with this. Now, I don't know exactly, you know, how much smoke is behind this and whatnot, or, you know, if they're going to look into this. We don't really know. But this is like 3 years already with people saying Maxx going to be traded, he's going to be traded. So this was all over the feeds. Everybody was talking about it. It's like the biggest news, and it's still going on right now. Maxx Crosby hasn't said anything. You know, I know the Raiders did put out, you know, when they did, you know, sit Maxx Crosby down, they put out a nice little letter about him and saying, you know, we look forward to Maxx being in the future. You know, he's basically a Raider, you know, and always know Maxx Crosby wanted to be a Raider. And didn't hear him say anything that he don't want to play. He never came out and said anything about that. I mean, I don't know how he's going to say to Jay, like, bro, why'd you even say that? You know what I mean? But then again, you know, we don't know if it's true or not. You know, we don't know if he want to be there. You know, maybe they made a phone call and asked him, hey, what's up? We don't know, but he's going through an injury. He seemed to be in good spirits, you know, once he was on the podcast talking about his recovery, and he should be back to full around June. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's the latest on that. You know, I don't really see nothing going on, honestly, until it happens. You know, I know March around there is like the day the season begins or whatever. But I don't see that happening, honestly. But, I mean, we'll just have to kick back and see. You know, I know Maxx wants to be a Raider for sure. And then now we got Clint Kubiak, right? So we all know Clint Kubiak is going to be the next Raiders head coach. Now, I got to give Raiders the props. The staff, Mark Davis, Spytek, and Brady, you know, they took their time, it seems like, with this hire. They didn't rush it. There was a lot of names that was trending, you know, and basically they ended up getting, you know, who they wanted. They got Kubiak, you know. There's a lot of big names out there, you know, and they can't officially announce it right now because obviously they're going to the Super Bowl right now, and it'll be announced, I'm sure, shortly right after that, maybe Monday. I don't think they'll do it on Sunday. I don't really know, but the GM even said that, you know, pretty much Kubiak's going to be gone, you know, and it's a good move for the Las Vegas Raiders, man. I feel like they need it. He's young. You know, he's a good coach. Offensive minded, you know, so it's gonna be a good thing, man. You know, I wasn't with Savansky or Dable or, you know, everybody was talking about Davis Webb. I'm like, I wasn't a big fan of the whole Davis Webb thing because I feel like, honestly, you know, you being a quarterback coach, and then I feel like if you're gonna be a QB coach, you know, you go to be an OC first, then you go, you know, the head coach. You don't jump from like QB coach and go straight to head coach position, especially with how much work the Las Vegas Raiders need. They need a lot of work, you know, so I feel like, honestly, you're going to need somebody that's going to come in there, and to give them all that, Davis Webb, I feel like everybody was vouching for that, and I was like, nah, I don't really see that happening. But that was the name that was trending. Mike LaFleur was another one, but like I said, once Arizona locked in Mike, you know, and I was like, pretty much gonna be Kubiak, you know what I mean? It was like 9-10 teams that needed head coaches, and everybody just slowly started, you know, just going solid, went to where he went, you know what I mean? And it just, everybody just started going where they need to go, you know, and, you know, like I said, looking forward to the Raiders, man, this coming up year. We'll see what they do in the draft. You know, Mendoza's pretty much going to be that pick for the first round quarterback. And they got to build around that. You know, they have a lot of cap space, I believe like $100 million. So we'll have to see what they do with that cap space, build around. And I feel like maybe a receiver, you know, we'll see. But I feel like one of the other guys, you know, they got 24 free agents. And I feel like one of the free agents they need to bring back was unrestricted free agent. They need to bring back Eric Stokes, man. I feel like Eric Stokes really did his thing, man. He was balling out this year, so I feel like they need to try to bring him back. You know, he solidified himself. He did his thing. You know, but we'll have to see what happens, man. You know, like I said, now that I'm sure that Kubiak, he's pretty much focused on the Super Bowl right now, so I feel like after that, you know, he may already know what staff he's going to put in place and already have a plan. You know, I feel like they already kind of knew it was Kubiak, but like I said, they can't announce anything, so I feel like it was like a mutual agreement behind closed doors, and then they have to pretty much wait. So breaking news will be coming soon. We're only a couple days away, y'all, for, you know, new head coach announcement, man. So like I said, go ahead and click that subscribe for you guys, man. I appreciate the support, man. Raider Nation, you know, we rep Raiders for life. Everything we do is Raider Nation. I wear Raiders every single day because I'm a diehard fan, man, and I love this stuff, man. But peace, y'all. Raider Nation.